What's happening, YouTube? KitePlanet here, or Kite if you're like that. Some people aren't like that, but I'm like that. We are back. Hunter x Hunter is back after 2 years hiatus almost. We're back with chapter 401. This is my first review of Hunter x Hunter. I'm about 400 chapters too late, but better late than never. I love Hunter x Hunter. So like, subscribe if you like Hunter x Hunter, if you want to continue to see reviews. I'm not going to pull up the panel, copyright reasons, obviously, but I'll put some images up and stuff to keep your attention. I know y'all got the attention span of a bunny rabbit, but we're going to do it like that. So we're going to hit some, we're not going to read the entire chapter because we know Hunter x Hunter is wordy. I like it, but it would be a long video to read through all of it. We're going to hit some major topics and points because this is just the start. All right, so we're just going to hit the important parts that need to be discussed, that I think need to be discussed. So at the last chapter, we were focusing on Melody, and she was getting interrogated for playing that song, and then she was summoned by Fourth Prince Serednik, however you say his name. And yeah, so we flip over to Kurapika and his 2-week nin thing, where he said, I can teach people nin in 2 weeks, guaranteed. And they're like, what? The nin users are like, nah, bro, you can't do that. So they show up along with the people who are curious to know what nin is. People found out what nin was over like the announcements or something. Somebody exposed it a while back, and everyone wants to know what it is now. That's why people are showing up for Kurapika's class. So they've been doing the divination at the end of the 2 weeks. This is the end of that 2-week period, and people should understand the basics of nin by now. That was Kurapika's promise. So he's bringing them in one by one into the queen and prince's chamber to do their divination and stuff like that. They aren't actually learning, well, they are, but they're using a trick to it. The Kurapika's like dude is using like his enhancement ability to do some shit like that. But yeah, that's where we are. In comes this one bodyguard, Long Key. I believe she belongs to 5th Prince, to Beppa. She slides in and it's her turn. So she walks in and she goes, I don't need the divination. I can already use nin. Kurapika, they're like, oh, okay, bet. And she goes, but just so you know, those snakes weren't mine, and I'd like to prove that and explain why I'm here. The snakes, that's in reference to when they first started these nin training classes, or nin school, whatever you want to call it. Someone got killed by these weird nin snakes, and it was an assassin, and they never figured out who it was. She's like, I can use nin already, so that puts her at the top of the suspect list. But she's like, that wasn't me, that was somebody else. I'll show you my nin ability. And so she activates her nin, her Hatsu, and you see this paper and pen like conjure out of nowhere at a nin. And they're like, whoa. She goes, my ability is called Transparent Words Moonlight Act. It's manipulation ability. So we see that it's not conjuration. Obviously she just said it was manipulation, but she doesn't actually conjure a piece of paper. It's aura shaped like a piece of paper and a pen shaped like the piece of paper, or a pen shaped like the piece of paper. It's an aura shaped like a pen. It's still attached to her finger and everything. So she's not really conjuring it. So yeah, this fits under manipulation. Pretty cool ability. I didn't know you could use manipulation in this way. As long as you don't detach the nin from yourself, you could make it do what you want and fit it under any category. Pretty cool. Nin just gets like expanded every time, especially with that new chart where you can be transmuter conjurer or conjure specialist. Ridiculous. I love nin. But she goes, by having someone sign a limited term contract, I can loan out my ability or restrict their actions. So that's what her ability, Transparent Words Moonlight Act, does. It allows her to make them sign a limited term contract where she can loan her ability or restrict their actions. Keeping the terms vague, like restrict their actions, hey man, a pretty decent ability so far. She goes, a condition is I have to voluntarily get their signature. I can't coerce them or trick them any way like that. So pretty strong condition right there. They have to willingly sign it, and not a lot of people would sign a nin contract. I mean, it's not an actual nin contract, but it's a contract made out of nin. He goes, you want my signature? Like, what's in the contract? Like, why would I do that? I want an alliance between the 5th and 14th princes. She goes, however, Prince Tubeppa, the 5th prince, doesn't know about this contract, and she also doesn't know that I can use Nin. This contract is insurance to guarantee the true plan goes smoothly. Their true plan, the fifth prince true plan. And he goes, hey, sounds kind of complicated, but I'll hear you out, but I don't have time to sift through a mix of fact and fiction. He whips out his gun and the dowsing chain. He's like, if I figure out you're lying, I'm gonna blow you down. He goes, I'll shoot you without hesitation. And she's like, isn't your threat kind of a waste of time? Like, you can't kill a nin user with a 22 caliber bullet. Krapika doesn't even say anything. He still holds the gun up. And she goes, my ability requires me to explain the whole truth first. If all I wanted was to form a contract between you and the prince, I would only need to tell you the details of the contract itself. But for my true plan, because the fifth prince has a plan, and then she, Long He, has her own plan, a true plan. She goes, with my true plan, I want to grant you additional power with my ability. And in order to do that, I have to explain everything. Not just the plan for the fifth prince, but my plan with that as well. And he goes, what's your plan then? And she kind of like is quiet. And she's like, I don't know how to explain it. And she's like, I guess I just start with what used to be the original plan or the true plan. She goes, I'm beyond Netero's daughter. What is going on? Why does Beyond Netero have a random kid in the Kakin Empire that's like a guard for one of the princes? And Krapika's like, all right, go on. So Hunter x Hunter's really long, like each chapters are really long, so I'm just gonna paraphrase all this, and then we're gonna get to discussing the important part. So she goes, 30 years ago, my dad talked some women and people into having sham marriages and getting them to raise his children. So there are many of Beyond's children scattered throughout the Kakin Empire. Well, not really the Kakin Empire, because the plan is they raise the children as if they were owned, with the goal being that to get them in the Royal Military Academy. And so he did this every time a prince was born. So you can infer by that line of thinking he has a kid, or a sham marriages and a kid, every time there's a new prince that's born. So he wants to get a kid in with every single prince, right? You would think, okay, he just wants to get a political foothold or a power foothold in this country for every single prince. Depending on which prince is the next king, he'll have it in with them no matter what. That's a pretty like standard plan that makes sense if Beyond's trying to do that. She goes, we were set on the path to become royal guards for the princes, and most of us have probably fulfilled this goal because we've had Nen since we were born after all. So passing the academy was a breeze. She goes, I stumbled upon the secret when I discovered that I didn't inherit a trait I should have from my father, right? Or she says, we had Nen since we were born after all, and the academy exam itself wasn't difficult unless there were special circumstances. I stumbled upon the secret when I discovered that I didn't inherit a trait I should have from my father. After I found out about the existence of my brothers and sisters, I simply figured my father's purpose was to place his kin into important positions close to the next king, as I just stated. And Krapika goes, so that was the true plan, right? Just to get in with all the king. He goes, yes, my parents told me when they told me about my real father. So they explained that to her when they told her about Beyond. The other half siblings weren't told this. And so even though she's known up until the succession battle, she just thought of herself merely as a Kakin soldier with unique family circumstances. So she didn't think much about it. She goes into her childhood and how she grew up, how like she went to boarding school and she had a tenuous relationship with her parents. And every time she saw her parents, they kept speaking about Beyond's plan, about how getting into the government with getting into powerful positions with the princes. And she goes, I never questioned, since it aligned with the national cause of the world unity under Kakin. She's like, the plan didn't seem ridiculous. It was like a roundabout way to do it, but it makes sense. But she realized, like his methods were different. Like this wasn't simply that. If all he wanted to do was get us in with the princes, cool. But this wasn't that. She goes, we were used as pawns. As I said, we could use Nen since we were born, which is already ridiculous. Never heard of that before. Newborns with Nen instinctively learn Ten and Zetsu quickly to prevent fatigue. She states how we were always among the top in the academy, obviously because they have Nen and other people don't. She goes, however, this was all I could use Nen because that was a side effect of Beyond's Nen attack. So, when going to Kilo were first learning Nin. They didn't learn it the regular way. They got hit with Wings aura, raw aura, and it awakened them. That's what that is. But that's not how Beyond did it. Beyond placed a curse on all of these children. And she talks about how they realized this when one of her other sisters failed to do her mission, and the parents didn't care, because she said how the parents were always speaking passionately about the plan and how you need to go get under the princes and work for them. When she failed to do that, the parents seemed to not really care, and so it didn't line up with everything she knew in her life. She's like, well, what's the problem here? So they went after the seed ceremony, the seed urn ceremony. They worked. They figured out they had a mark in common, and so they showed it to the renowned exorcist, a Nin exorcist, and they discovered the truth. He told them that there's a powerful and sinister Nin that possessed them, the children of Beyond. So they all have this same mark on them. It will activate upon their death. And she goes, take a look at this. She lifts up her tongue, and on the bottom of her tongue is an eyeball with like this Nin script. I don't know. I don't think it's divine script. It could be. It kind of looks like divine script, I'm not gonna lie, but it's got this writing and these markings with the eyeball in the middle. And the Nin exorcist tells them, like, they're a strong cursed sacrifice. I was chosen to curse my target to death, and there are at least 10 of us who are strong, including me and Makaha, the girl that failed to get in to like the princess thing. And she goes, if there are as many or more weak ones who weren't selected, then my father must have prepared a large number of pawns because he couldn't be sure of the final count of princes. So there's not just, that's why the parents were upset, because they knew that there were more kids like her. If she failed, there could always just be another one. And so their bodies are used as tools for like curses, I'm assuming, to kill the princes. That's what it is. But they don't know. They don't know the ability they have, and they also don't know who the targets are. So they're just assuming it's for the princes. They don't know the actual target. But the ability is used to curse the targets to death. That's what is known for sure. So they don't know anything but the fact that they have a curse on them, and the curse is to curse the target to death. That's all they know. And then they start to say, like, hey, we've been in here for a long time doing the divination. Like, people are starting to get suspicious. And so they're like, well, if there are more than 10 strong curse sacrifices and 14 princes, it can't be a coincidence. We don't know who's going to kill which prince, but Beyond is trying to influence this succession battle. And then, I can't remember, is this dude's name Ben? I think it was Ben. I'm not sure. No, it's not Ben. It's something else. I don't know. But Krabika's dude, he's like, hey, if we didn't tell the sacrifices, that means either Beyond knows how to activate the curse, or he's leaving it up to fate, which increases the power of the curse. And they think with this that he's trying to, since he's in the inner circle of Kakin, that he wants Prince Benjamin, since he has control over the people, like the guards and stuff, so he can assign them to kill all of them people if he wants to, and then he'll become the next prince. So they assume, or Ben comes up, not Ben, I don't remember what his goddamn name is. Bill, that's his name. Bill comes up with the idea that, hey, Beyond's working and wants Benjamin to become the next prince by killing all the people with the curses he set up. And Long He goes, nah, like, I don't think it's Prince Benjamin. Like, I know my father, he's cunning, greedy, and with this much prep time, it's inconceivable that he would make all this effort for someone unrelated to him. And they're like, well, what does that mean? And she comes out with the bomb that one of the princes is Beyond's child. That's what she thinks. So this isn't confirmed, but that's her hypothesis. And they're like, well, is that possible? And Krabika's like, Queen Oito, like, what's the requirement for participation in the succession battle? And she goes, well, to be qualified, they must be born to Nasubi's Huigo Rose lawful wife. It's true that there's technically no mention of paternal lineage, but I mean, it couldn't be. So you just have to be born from one of Nasubi's lawful wives, official wives. It doesn't say that Nasubi himself has to be the father, but obviously they would assume only Nasubi is having children and sleeping with his wives. Why would anybody else do that? So you wouldn't need to go the extra step and be like, hey, they need to be blood related to me. So it's possible that one of the kids or multiple of the princes is in fact not Nasubi's child, which is ridiculous. People start knocking on the door and like, hey, is everything okay in there? It's taking a long time. They're like, hey, we're negotiating terms of a truce. It's taking a while, so we're trying to get down to the details and all that stuff. One of Prince Benjamin's guards, the two people, they're discussing like, hey, it's kind of weird. But she's like, continue. So this isn't really important, but they just talk about the truce and how the 4th and 5th prince will, or 14th and 5th prince will come to alliance. We're not attacking the queens, the princes, or their guards until 9 a.m. So I think that's a week. Automatically, the contract will automatically renew next week if a representative from Tubepa is present in this room. My ability will activate only if your side violates the terms. It'll activate, and if you violate the terms, the activation is force Zetsu for a week. Kurapika's like, damn, like that's pretty strong. And so Kurapika signs it, I think. Or no, she goes, my additional stipulation is to identify Beyond's child out of the princes before either Prince Tubepa withdraws or there are only 2 princes remain. If it turns out the criteria as set are not applicable to any of the princes, the conditions will be met in your favor. So if none of the princes are Beyond's child, Kurapika will be granted her ability for a week, I think. No, the addition, it will expire at the same time Prince Tubepa cancels the truth. These are just the conditions. They're not really that important, but it's Hunter x Hunter, so they'll probably be important. So she goes, if you're willing to continue the investigation, I promise to write a contract between us, even if Tubepa cancels it. The reward is that you will be granted one-time use of my ability, not a week. So he'll be able to use her ability as a reward if they follow through with the contract. Kurapika's like, not bad. Like, forcing Zetsu on people is much easier with her ability than it is with mine. So this isn't a bad deal. And he's like, the chain hasn't moved, so she didn't lie. And she says, make sure you hear this last part. My true plan. If my father's child is among the princes, as I expect, I will kill them myself. And she goes on to say, if only my father had told me everything, even if my role had been the same, I would have never made this decision. I'm not sure what that means or what that changes, but I'm sure she's killing the prince because Beyond's like up to something super sinister and she can't let it happen. And so they walk out of the room after that. It doesn't show Kurapika signing anything or doing anything. So those 2 Prince Benjamin guards look at them and are like, okay, like things look the same. Kurapika's nin looks pretty similar. It's a little different, something faint, but I can't really tell what it is. Nothing really of note. But these guys don't really make it easy to figure out what's going on. Kurapika's like, hey, sorry. Took so long. We were trying to come to reach an agreement. And then they say, hey, lastly, 1040, it's your turn. Slide on in. Prince Benjamin's 2 guard dudes sent here are talking. They're asking like, hey, this is kind of hard. Let's get an assignment change. And so they're just talking. Nothing really of importance, to be honest. They just talk about how like there's not enough evidence to take them to trial, to like because they're doing like suspicious shit behind closed doors. But so it won't really work taking them to trial or anything. This is kind of hard. And so we flash in the last panel to Beyond Netero sitting in his cell, chained up to the wall, and he has a book. And I think I saw somewhere on Twitter the other day that Beyond's supposed to be drawn after some cult leader, which would make sense because everything he's doing is in line with what a cult person would do with these sham marriages, having his kids sort of, I wouldn't even say usurp, but just weasel their way into this political structure to kill people. But yeah, very cultish with Nin. But he's like, hey, I'm done reading this book. Can you give me a new book? And he goes, Kanzai's guarding him, the Tiger Zodiac. And he's like, there aren't any books. Read again or write your own book. And he's like, hey, pretty good idea. Give me a pen and paper. And he's like, psh, for safety reasons, I'm not giving you a pen and paper. Use your beard and your blood. Make a pen out of that shit. And he goes, security reasons. Beyond's like, security reasons? What are you talking about? If I wanted to, I could knock your head off with this book alone. And Kanzai's like, yeah, I'm super scared. got any other requests? Don't hold back. Asking's free. Just basically saying like, you can ask all you want, but I ain't getting you shit. And he goes, Beyond laughs. He's like, you're funny, but there is someone I'd like to talk to. Can you arrange a meeting for me? And that's the end of the chapter. So what are our thoughts on the chapter, guys? Pretty fire. Pretty long video. I mean, we had to hit all the stuff. But who do you think the prince is that is related to Beyond? Who could it be? I mean, Benjamin looks the closest to Beyond, to be honest. So Benjamin doesn't look like he'd be the child of Nasubi. If you've seen Nasubi, he's like chubby and very just not disciplined at all, hedonistic. So it seems like Benjamin would be his child, but that's the first child. That means Beyond was, I don't know, bro. That seems kind of ridiculous for the first child to be Beyond's. That mean he strategized this like godlike, but I just don't see that happening. It could be Saridnik as well. So since Kurapika is the one privy to this information, and this lady Long Key's like, I want to kill him, that would conflict Kurapika and the contract she made with him, making it even harder for Kurapika to kill Saridnik. Not because Saridnik's strong, but he is, but because he would break the contract and get forced into Zetsu, because one of the stipulations was that Long Key had to kill Saridnik herself. So Saridnik could end up being the child of Beyond. It could be a lot of people, but Saridnik looks like Beyond. He doesn't look like Beyond, but he's got the structure of it. If you look at all the other children, they seem to mostly take after like their mothers. Nasubi, that one prince that died, the one that had like all the women was sleeping with all the women, that one was definitely Nasubi's child. But some of these people, I don't know, man. So it really could be anybody, and there's a bunch. Who are all the freaking cursed children that Netero has? Like, we got to find out all the guards that have this freaking cursed nin thing, cursed the target to death. And they're not the only ones to curse. There's that other group that is to curse the princes to death as well. Is that them? That can't be them, because they would have already been exposed. If you know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry, but there's so much information in Hunter x Hunter. But a while back, they showed a group of people that were all assigned to kill a prince with their curse. So that could be them, but they didn't show like the curse or how it worked or anything like that. I'll have to go back and read that. But we'll do another video Wednesday, halfway through the week, to discuss, after I do more information and all that stuff, we'll discuss the next chapter, what's going to be in the next chapter, and we'll discuss some of the stuff in here, like how I just said, if that group, I'll do some research, see if that group that was literally known to be the people that were going to curse each prince to death are the people that Long Key was referencing and all her siblings. That would make sense. But we'll have to see. Beyond Netero is, I liked him at first, but now I don't know how I feel about him. This is kind of wild. What is he trying to do? Does he want to be the king, kill all the princes and become king? Or does he want to make his child the king? Because he doesn't seem like he wants to sit and rule a nation. He wants to kind of be free like Netero. But we'll have to see. Isaac Netero. But let me know your thoughts on this chapter, guys. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. We'll be back next week for sure with chapter 402. Peace. 大事にしなかった私の頭は無理みたいなんだ